In the year 1987, Sarah drives her son Matt back from the hospital where he has been bravely fighting cancer. In a heartfelt moment, Sarah's prayers for her son's recovery spill into the air, catching Matt's attention as he wakes up. With a touch of humor, he teases his mother about talking to herself. Unfazed, Sarah confides that she's actually speaking to God. Amidst the emotional roller coaster, Matt suddenly feels sick, prompting Sarah to pull over. The next morning, in the midst of the chaotic family scene, Sarah's husband, Peter, questions her late arrival the previous night. Yearning for a place closer to the hospital, Sarah reflects on the challenges they face. Sarah and Matt find themselves back at the hospital, where Matt has been granted entry into a promising new treatment trial. As Matt undergoes the treatment, Sarah remains determined to find a rental house closer to the hospital to ease their burden. Frustrated with the lack of success in her search, she's driving down a street when she notices a man hammering a for rent sign into a front yard. She decides to take a chance, pulling over to inquire about the rental price. The man introduces himself as Mr. Sinclair, and surprisingly, he offers her the first month of rent for free, hoping she'll take the place and spare him from further signposting struggles. Fate seems to intervene, intertwining Sarah's quest for a home with the newfound opportunity of this generous offer. As they explore the lower level of the house, Sarah can't help but express her excitement about how perfect and surprisingly affordable the place seems. However, her keen instincts lead her to wonder if there's a catch to such an ideal opportunity. Curious, she asks the owner about any potential downsides. He replies with a hint of mystery, revealing that the house holds a bit of history. Unbeknownst to them, a dark shape stealthily moves away from the landing above. Later that night, as she and Matt are driving home, Matt is suddenly gripped by excruciating pain, and Sarah recalls the doctor's warning about such episodes. Trying to lighten the mood, she reminds him that at least he's not feeling nauseous. Matt agrees, but is soon overwhelmed by worsening body aches and his cries of suffering. She turns the car around and heads back, determined to find help and relief for her son's distress. Having called the owner, he arrives to let them into the house, generously providing a couple of mattresses for them to rest on. Later, Sarah finds herself on the phone with Peter, divulging her difficult decision to rent the house without consulting him. She explains that she couldn't bear to subject Matt to the grueling car ride back home in his state of suffering. Meanwhile, Matt lies in the living room, seeking solace by watching an old black and white film. As he reaches up to switch off the film, an eerie revelation unfolds. The reflection on the screen shows a mysterious figure standing behind him. As morning arrives, Sarah suggests to Matt that he can have the first pick of the rooms before the rest of the family arrives. Curious, Matt starts exploring the upstairs, inspecting the different rooms and coming across a dumbwaiter leading to the basement. Meanwhile, Sarah is in the front room, arranging the window seat cushions, when she stumbles upon a cabinet with several framed photographs. As she examines them, a sense of horror washes over her, prompting her to hastily hide the pictures in the garbage outside. She heads downstairs and inquires about his choice, and to her astonishment, he reveals that he wants the basement, claiming that it chose him. He explains that it's roomy and cool and comes with its own bathroom, making it the perfect sanctuary where he won't disturb the rest of the family during his difficult times of illness. Sarah's curiosity is piqued by the glass doors in the basement, and she questions Matt about its contents. He admits that he's unsure, as the door refuses to open. Both of them press their faces against the glass, attempting to catch a glimpse inside, but their exploration is interrupted by the arrival of the rest of the family. Peter has arrived with their other children, including Matt's cousins, Wendy and Mary. The kids joyfully rush upstairs to claim their rooms. Matt joins his father in moving furniture and setting up his bed in the basement. As Peter notices the walled-off section, he speculates that it might have been sealed off for storage. Meanwhile, Sarah leads Wendy to a room she thinks she'd like, mentioning the spacious closet. However, as they open the closet door, a chilling sight awaits them, a figure standing ominously behind them, reflected in a mirror mounted on the closet door. The next morning, as Matt assists Sarah in the kitchen by setting the table, he grabs a stack of plates and carefully places them on the table. But when he turns to get the silverware, he's taken aback to find the plates have mysteriously returned to the shelf. Confused, he asks his mother if she moved them, but she denies any involvement. Puzzled, he reaches for the plates again, only to have them crash to the floor from the table behind him. Sarah rushes over to help him pick up the mess, and he apologizes, mentioning that he thought he saw the plates back on the shelf. Sarah becomes concerned as one of the side effects of Matt's new treatment is hallucinations, and if he starts experiencing them, he might be removed from the trial. In frustration, Matt denies seeing anything, attributing it to exhaustion, and then unintentionally sets the plates too close to the table's edge. After another visit to the cancer center, Sarah assists Matt in entering the house, his body weakened from yet another round of treatments. Supporting him, she helps him lean against one of the porch pillars while she rushes back to the car to fetch her purse. As Matt rests against the pillar, he's suddenly taken aback as his hand sinks into it, revealing to be filled with rotting meat. Shocked and disoriented, he calls out for his mother, but as quickly as the disturbing vision appeared, it abruptly ends, leaving him questioning his own perception. To Matt's surprise, the door to the previously inaccessible room clicks open as he enters. His brother Billy follows follows him downstairs and is struck with awe at the sight of the room that used to be a former funeral home. Curiosity takes over, and Billy starts examining the tools left behind in the room. Playfully, he jumps onto the embalming table when Matt suggests he'll give him a ride. As the table spins faster and faster, he begins to see fleeting images, including a quick glimpse of a man loading sandbags into an empty coffin. Despite the strange visions, Matt continues to spin the table, unaware of Billy cries out for him to stop. Peter enters, playfully joking about the commotion and teasing that they were able to get into the room because he loosened the knob. However, his playful demeanor fades when he sees the unsettling array of tools in the room. Later, he pulls Sarah aside into the backyard, demanding to know when she became aware of the house's dark history. Hesitant, Sarah eventually confesses that she has known for a while but was drawn to the house because she believed it was perfect for their family. Peter expresses surprise that she kept the truth hidden, reminding her that she always emphasized the importance of honesty in their marriage. In response, Sarah hints at previous troubles in their relationship due to Peter's past drinking problem. During dinner that night, Peter opens up to the rest of the family about the house, acknowledging its unsettling past. Despite the dark history, he declares that it doesn't matter now because the house is officially theirs. Turning to Matt, he invites him to say grace before the meal. As the family joins hands, Matt becomes lost in another vision, this time witnessing a group of people conducting a seance, with the young man he previously saw named Jonah at its center. The haunting scene fades away, and Matt snaps back to reality, only to find the rest of the family staring at him with fear and concern in their eyes. Matt finds himself once again at the hospital, watching TV in a room with other patients. Suddenly, he hears a chilling sound and is horrified to see crabs crawling on the floor, as well as on his legs and arm. The nightmarish vision comes to an end when a nurse starts drawing blood from his arm. Engaging in a conversation with another patient named Reverend Nicholas Popescu, Matt confides that he's been experiencing unsettling sights. Reverend Nicholas warns him not to mention it to the doctors, explaining that they wouldn't understand. Sympathetic and understanding, Reverend Nicholas offers Matt his card and encourages him to reach out if he needs someone to talk to about these disturbing encounters. Matt engages in a game of hide and seek with his brother and cousin the next day. While searching for them upstairs, he enters Wendy's room and is suddenly startled by another haunting vision of Jonah, who is frantically packing his belongings into a bag, while a voice calls out to him urgently. Matt follows Jonah as he rushes downstairs, only to witness another figure grabbing Jonah and pulling him into the basement. Driven by curiosity and fear, Matt follows suit and steps into the basement, but to his shock, the door shuts behind him, trapping him inside. The once empty morgue has transformed, now cluttered with shrouded bodies on every surface. Matt's heart pounds as one of the corpse's feet twitches, sending him into a panicked frenzy. He calls out for Wendy in desperation, but as the shrouds fall away, he realizes with horror that the corpses surround him. In his fear, he instinctively pushes one away, only to discover that he has actually shoved his little brother. Matt decides to call Nicholas and takes his advice to heart and decides to confront the spirit he's been seeing. Later, in his room, he lowers himself to the floor, hooking his feet under the bed frame, and starts doing sit-ups with caution. As he sits up, he's confronted by the haunting figure of a burned ghost appearing right before him. Bracing himself, Matt bravely asks the spirit what it wants from him, but instead of receiving a clear answer, the ghost begins to move closer to him. As the rest of the family returns home, they are met with a chilling sight. The children call for Sarah, and she rushes into the front room, only to be shocked. All the furniture has been inexplicably stacked in the middle of the room. Even more disturbing is the sight of Matt shirtless, his fingers bloody from desperately scratching at the wall. The family is filled with concern and confusion, unable to comprehend the inexplicable events unfolding within their new home. Sarah and Peter decide to take Matt to see Dr. Brooks, seeking answers to his disturbing behavior. The doctor reassures them that Matt's unusual actions are not directly related to his cancer or treatment, offering a glimmer of hope. Sarah, desperate to find solace, attempts to pray for Matt's recovery, but breaks down in tears, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of their situation. The following day, Mary and Billy complain of boredom and ask their older cousin Wendy to play with them. Wendy, engrossed in reading nearby, suggests they play hide and seek instead. Excitedly, Billy decides to hide in the dumbwaiter and quickly shuts the doors, leaving his cousin Mary out. Undeterred, Mary decides to hide in the attic. As Wendy begins to search for them, Billy is horrified to discover that he's sharing the cramped space of the dumbwaiter with the ghostly figure of the burnt ghost. He lets out a terrified shriek, sending chills down his spine. In her haste to escape the attic, Mary accidentally steps on a rotted section of the floor, causing her leg to get stuck. Hearing the commotion, Wendy, Matt and Billy rush upstairs to find Mary trapped in the attic floor. After helping Mary out of the attic, Matt discovers a hidden metal box and a bundle of photographs in the hole. Later in the kitchen, he and Wendy examine the contents together. The photographs reveal Jonah during the seance, emitting ectoplasm. Inside the box, they find another container with strange strips of material that neither of them can identify. As Matt puts the box away, he asks to see the photographs again. Wendy notices a look of recognition on his face, indicating that he's seen the boy in the photos before. Encouraged by Wendy, Matt finally opens up and admits that he has been seeing the boy in the pictures ever since they moved into the house. Suspecting the house may be haunted, Wendy suggests delving into its history to uncover the truth behind the haunting. In the library, she unravels the sinister identity of Ramsey Aikman. Delving deeper, she uncovers Aikman's sinister past and psychic research, orchestrating chilling seances with Jonah as the conduit. The mystery takes a macabre twist when all attendees, including Aikman, are found lifeless after one haunting gathering, leaving Jonah vanished without a trace. Unearthed records from the 1950s further reveals that many bodies from the cemetery near the house had mysteriously vanished, never to rest in peace. Seeking answers to the haunting mystery, Matt and Wendy urgently reach out to Nicholas for his expertise. The smaller box contains the gruesome remains of Aikman's unspeakable deeds, the severed eyelids of the deceased, victims of his grim processing rituals. Nicholas pieces together a harrowing theory. Aikman delved into necromancy, attempting to wield power over the dead, binding their souls to the very fabric of the house. All of this in a bid to amplify Jonah's medium abilities. Faced with the weight of a dark and malevolent force, Nicholas implores Matt and Wendy to join him in a solemn prayer, seeking solace and salvation for the tormented souls of the missing bodies. As Matt grasps their hands, he is once more pulled into a haunting vision of the fateful seance, Jonah expelling ectoplasm from his mouth, while Aikman watches with sinister fascination. The atmosphere grows tense as the table quivers and the ectoplasm takes on an eerie fiery glow. Before the vision can consume him entirely, Sarah's return breaks the spell, demanding an explanation about the unfamiliar presence in her home. Nicholas attempts to warn her about the malevolent spirits lingering in the house, their ominous intentions directed towards Matt, who hovers on the brink of death. Despite his warnings, Sarah insists he leaves, and he complies, leaving behind a card to assure her that she is not alone. As the night fell, Peter stumbled home, intoxicated and agitated. Slamming the door behind him, he yells at his family for leaving the lights on, ranting about the extra expenses. In a swift act of protection, Sarah gathered everyone in a single room and locked the door, hoping to shield them from Peter's wrath. However, in his drunken rage, Peter forcibly broke open the door, now even ripping out light bulbs from the room. With relentless fury, he went around the entire house, wrenching out bulbs and shattering them in the kitchen sink. Fueled by anger and concern, Sarah musters the courage to confront Peter outside as she rebukes him for his childish behavior, explaining how he has only succeeded in terrifying the family, warning him that if he ever gets drunk again, he shouldn't bother returning home. With frustration and disappointment, she storms back inside. Late into the night, as the family peacefully sleeps, chaos descends upon the house as all the electronics go haywire. Fear grips their hearts, and Sarah, in desperation, reaches out to Nicholas for help. He arrives promptly, explaining how trapped spirits could be the cause. Sarah clings to hope as Nicholas searches the house, eventually reaching the basement where he finds Matt in apparent agony. As Sarah comforts her son, Nicholas investigates further. He attempts to examine the furnace, but the doors slam shut. Panic intensifies as doors throughout the house begin to wildly open and shut. Realizing that the furnace might be the key, Nicholas struggles to access it from outside. Meanwhile, Sarah remains with Matt, unaware of Jonah's looming spirit drawing nearer to her son. Outside, Nicholas manages to open the back of the furnace, revealing a fragment of a skull amidst the ashes. As he removes the remains, the haunting activity suddenly ceases, bringing calm to the night. Carrying the ashes, Nicholas assures Sarah that the intense activity should now subside, but warns her of possible lingering disturbances for a few days. Grateful for his help, Sarah bids him farewell, and he drives away into the night. Meanwhile, in the basement, Matt glances out of the window and is startled to see Jonah's spirit gazing back at him from outside. Yet fatigue overwhelms him, and he eventually drifts off to sleep, hoping the unsettling presence will eventually fade away. Matt wakes up later to discover Aikman's symbols carved into his flesh, causing him to scream in horror. Sarah rushes downstairs, alarmed by his cries, demanding to know what he has done to himself. In distress, Matt is swiftly taken by ambulance to the hospital, where he finds himself in a room with a man muttering to himself. As he lies there, he tries to focus on the ceiling, but to his shock, he glances at the door only to see Jonah's spectral figure standing there. As Nicholas drives home with Jonah's remains, he catches a glimpse of Jonah's ghostly figure in his rearview mirror, causing him to become distracted and almost crash into a truck. Swerving to avoid a collision, he runs off the road. As he looks at Jonah's spectral presence, an inexplicable connection occurs, and both Nicholas and Matt begin to experience simultaneous visions, as if their minds have become entwined. In a chilling vision, we witness witness Jonah awakening after the flames erupt during the seance. To his horror, he finds all the attendees now burnt corpses, and Aikman, severely injured from the blaze, urges Jonah to flee, warning that they will now be after him. Panicking, Jonah dashes away, and the house seems to come to life, driving him upstairs. Desperate for safety, he climbs into the dumbwaiter, but as it descends to the basement, he pleads for help, only to be violently thrust into the furnace. The flames engulf him, ending his life in a horrifying manner. As Nicholas receives this haunting tale from Jonah's spirit, and Jonah's ashes mysteriously float out of Nicholas' car. At the hospital, Sarah anxiously inquires about seeing Matt, but upon arriving at his room, they are met with a startling discovery: a hole in the window, indicating that Matt has escaped. Back at the house, Wendy is tending to Billy and Mary, settling them back into their rooms. However, as she bites into an apple, she's horrified to find it rotted from within. Alarmed, she discovers that all the food in the house has similarly decayed and quickly disposes of it outside. She decides to take a shower. Unaware of Nicholas' urgent phone call, she misses his message explaining that he made a grave error. Jonah's spirit was trying to release the bound spirits, and now that he's been removed from the house, they are left at the mercy of the vengeful bound spirits' rage, and they must escape immediately. As Wendy finishes her shower, she is violently attacked, the shower curtain wrapping around her, nearly suffocating her. Terrified, she rushes to get Billy and Mary, only to spot Matt in the backyard, holding an axe. Panic overwhelms her as she hurries back inside, but her efforts prove futile as Matt smashes his way in with the axe. In a state of terror, Wendy rushes into the front room, screaming as Matt's axe strikes the wall behind her. Desperately trying to escape, she watches in horror as Matt starts hacking through a false wall, revealing the hidden corpses that Aikman had concealed within. He barricades himself inside and begins tearing down the remaining false walls, causing marked corpses to tumble into the room. The view switches between Matt and Jonah, as if Jonah is now inhabiting Matt's body. After dismantling the walls, Matt retrieves bottles of formaldehyde from the basement and sets the bodies and the room ablaze. Positioned in the middle of the inferno, he awaits the engulfing flames as the bound spirits converge around him. In a frantic race against time, Sarah and Peter arrive at the scene with the fire department, desperately attempting to rescue Matt from the blazing inferno. Nicholas also arrives, and Sarah demands to know why it isn't over yet. Determined to reach her son, Sarah maneuvers around a firefighter and rushes into the burning house, grabbing Matt and pulling him to safety under a table to shield them from falling debris. The malevolent spirits reappear, but then suddenly vanish, as if finally liberated. Just as the situation seems dire, a firefighter breaks through the wall, successfully extracting Matt and Sarah from the engulfed house. Outside, Sarah watches in a state of panic as the emergency crew desperately tries to resuscitate Matt. As he hovers between life and death, Matt experiences a vision of himself standing in a graveyard where he sees Jonah, now no longer burnt, standing in the distance, beckoning him. On the verge of following Jonah, he hears his mother's voice calling out to him, pulling him back to his body. Coughing and gasping, Jonah's spirit leaves Matt, appearing beside Nicholas briefly before finally vanishing, now able to find peace and move on. Sarah embraces Matt tightly as the family gathers around, and miraculously, Matt's cancer disappears. The harrowing chapter finally closes, leaving behind a sense of healing and hope for the future. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel.